I only found out about my Liz and my friend Rob's 10-year affair after his wife Beth died. Car accident. I wouldn't have known. Liz was too careful to hide it. But it was the death of her lover's wife that threw her off balance. She got nervous, confused, and left her cloud account open on her laptop. Is it moral to look into someone else's account? Of course not. Was I wrong to not close the folder once I realized it was her private? No, of course not. Better to know than not to know. And if I hadn't found out about her affair, I wouldn't have ruined that couple's life. There were pictures of Liz and Rob in the folder. No, there weren't pictures of sex. But there were selfies of them in our bed, in Rob and Beth's bed. Selfies of them kissing and Liz's diary entries, in which she described the highlights of their encounters, also without details, but with emotional nuances, about how happy she was when they'd managed to cover for me by taking me away on a business trip for a couple of days and putting me up in a motel 2 hours away, for example. After the first shock, I thought for a long time about the prospects for the rest of my life. There was no doubt in my mind that my marriage to Liz was over. But I also had no doubt that Liz and Rob's prospects were quite bright, and in many ways, at my expense, at least morally. At the memorial table, besides me, Liz, and Rob, there were a few of Beth and Liz's close friends and Rob's buddies, 12 people in all. I was the fourth person to speak. "Friends," I said, "my speech is going to be long. I apologize. Our 10-year history cannot be told in 2 words, but please listen. You can drink. The main thing is not to interrupt. So it was a special marriage, a special relationship. When it first happened, I looked at Rob. Yes, Rob, it started without your consent and you didn't know at first. I don't remember exactly, I think." I furrowed my brow. "Yes, Beth said she talked to you about our connection a month after you got married. I have to admit, the first time we slept with your then-fiancé, I was so freaked out that I was on the verge of divorce. I'm sorry, Liz." I looked at my wife's surprised face. "I know what you want us to say, but in the end, everything worked out great. Beth managed to talk you into an open marriage, Rob, but I was hesitant to tell Liz that Beth had pushed her out of my heart. I was very worried about it, and every time I had amazing sex with Beth, I felt both ashamed of my cheating and sorry for you, Liz. Fortunately, Rob," I smiled encouragingly at Liz's equally surprised face, compensated for his status as a consenting cuckold by getting intimate with my wife. It was the reason both our marriages had lasted so long and were practically cloudless. Sweet Beth, it was her idea, wasn't it? Not to show that we were cross-lovers? What 3 men know a pig knows, she loved that German proverb. She persuaded me to play the unconscious game. And until recently, all 4 of us have managed to play this wonderful game where no one guesses the others. I want to thank you, Rob, for your tact, for never once letting anyone know that we were lovers with your wife and you with mine. For those years of happiness when I could enjoy both Beth and Liz, when I could experience such opposite feelings, being a bull for your family and pretending to be a cuckold in ours. You didn't know that, did you, friends?" I looked around the room and saw Liz's 2 friends and Rob's buddy lower their eyes. My God, I feigned genuine surprise. "Rob, did you really just say that? And you, Liz?" "Liz only told me about her connection with Rob," her friend Anne interjected, embarrassed, "but nothing about you and Beth." I smiled sadly. "Well, it's a shame our game wasn't perfect. But what now? Especially since it almost ended almost a year ago." I sighed. "Yes, Beth and I almost broke up. We almost stopped having our dates. She had a new young lover. She couldn't divide herself between me and him. I accepted her decision, and we haven't had much privacy in the last few months." I smiled as if at an inner memory. "The last time was on your wedding anniversary." I gave a friendly nod to a stunned Rob, but it was almost friendly sex. I had a couple of very young girlfriends after Beth. I glanced at a pale Liz. "I'm sorry, Liz. I didn't tell you about that. I was just really embarrassed. Those girls were old enough to be our daughters. You would have laughed at me, and of course it was outside of the arrangement between Beth and Rob, between Beth and you. We didn't have any arrangement, Rob muttered. I didn't know anything. Wait, I made a face of shock. Are you telling me that you both didn't know that Beth and I were lovers, and our connection when she was your fiancé? And in marriage? Our sex at your wedding just before you walked down the aisle too? Liz and you? Are you saying that Beth was just my lover and you two didn't know? And you both didn't become lovers because Beth advised you as she and I discussed it? My God, was Beth lying to me? I hope my tears were genuine, no less sincere than Liz's. The rest of the time until we sold our house and moved out with Liz, she cried most of the time. Only once did she have a tantrum when she got drunk, tearfully and tragically clasped her hands together, asking me why I told her what I had told her, and that her whole life was broken because of my ridiculous candor. Rob had started drinking, very hard. It was a blow to him that it turned out he hadn't been manipulating his wife all their marriage, but she had. I don't think he'll ever be able to stop drinking. He still shuns me, by the way. I wanted to finish him off by calling him in for a conversation in which I planned to repent and tell him about my shame in front of him, interspersing my story with details of my meetings with Beth. It didn't work. He ran away from me and he drank. He and Liz didn't get married, of course. Well, at least I got even for 10 years of false marriage. I'm sorry, Beth. I hope you don't care. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.